What is up, everybody? This is Chris, back again with my co-host Crystal. This is the Pedal Dance Podcast. Today we do have a really interesting topic. In our first episode, we talked about how we were both big fans of Pokemon, always have been. And now Crystal is more so in one part of the community, and I'm also in a different part, but we're all part of the same general community. And we just wanted to give our thoughts about each separate part of the community along with the community as a whole. Isn't that right, Crystal?
I suppose so.
Didn't sound very confident there, did you?
I was trying to think of something clever and witty, but I fell flat. But that aside, do you have anything about the community in general that you want to talk about before you talk about the trading card game?
Sure. Yeah. For the community as a whole in general, there are good things and there are bad things, just like any other community out there. And most of it has to do with the people in the community. Because if you go online and Facebook and other social media sites with Pokemon fan bases, you're going to find a lot of people who are really interested in Pokemon and love to talk to people no matter what their views are. But you also have a lot of toxic people that will judge you for anything and everything you say. That's the one major complaint I have about this community, as with any other community, is that there are certain people that judge you no matter how you feel. And I mean, yeah, it's okay to have a disagreement with somebody over their opinion, but you got to remember, it's their opinion. They're entitled to feel or think whatever they want to think.
No, we're all just the same person, and if any one of us goes out of line, no, they are wrong. Their opinion is nothing but wrong.
Well, I just said all of that for nothing then. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome, friend.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, Crystal did say I would be covering. Oh, wait. I'm going to let you talk about that first, and then we'll go into that.
Let me talk about what?
Your opinion of the community in general.
Oh, well, my opinion of the Pokemon community in general is very positive. I have been a part of other similar communities, and a lot of them, they're either 50-50 or mostly negative. I will not say what their names are, I just will say that they are similar to Pokemon. But above all, I am so satisfied with our community. There are different aspects about the community that we will talk about. Chris will talk about the trading card game. I'll talk about the video game. We'll talk about the online community, some on Pokemon Go, and just other smaller sections of the Pokemon community. But of course, there's toxic people in all communities. You cannot escape them, or should I say, there are plenty of TMO6s. But that aside, I'll turn this over to Chris and let him talk about the trading card game.
Okay, I just face palmed at the fact you just did that.
Oh, you're welcome.
But yeah, the community is overall positive, but there are some things that I wish would change, which never will. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Now, yes, I am a professor for the TCG, as Crystal is for VGC. And my experiences with the TCG community, I would say, is about 95% positive. I remember my first tournament I ever went to. Now, keep in mind, I know I never said this before, but now keep in mind, I used to collect when I was little. I never played the game, but I used to collect when I was younger until somebody I used to call a friend stole all of my cards, but that's a topic for another day. I got back into the TCG about 2.5 years ago, give or take some days, weeks, whatever. And instead of just collecting, I decided I wanted to learn how to play. And I started collecting more, learning more rules, playing more, just really enjoying it. And so I wanted to really become a professor to actually, help whenever there are tournaments, league cups, league challenges, and stuff in my area. And so, but before I became a professor, I entered this big tournament, and it was a big tournament. It had a big showing. A lot of people came. And the deck I made, I could only classify as worse than a structure starter deck. It was pretty bad. But this was a couple months into me starting to get back into it and collecting, so I didn't really have a lot of cards, a lot of good cards for that matter. And so I just basically put in what I could. And I didn't get to finish the tournament, sadly, because I did have to leave. But the people that I did battle in that tournament, they were all super nice. Some people lent me some cards to actually put in my deck to help it. Some people gave me advice on what maybe I should do next, or give me ideas on what to take out, what to put in. Gave me some ideas of what I should start with, because there's a lot of popular decks out there and a lot of people run them. But I've only ever had one really bad problem, and that was one tournament I went to. It was just some person. I don't know who he was, but no matter who he went against, he would always trash the other person before, after, during, just really obnoxious. And sadly, there are people like that out there. Even when he got beat, he would still trash them. And I can't stand people like that. If you beat somebody, show respect. If you lose, show respect. It's a game about respect. Yeah, your goal is to win, but if you don't win, don't be a tool. The better player won. And a lot of the times it's not even about being better. You just got a better hand. It's 80-20 luck. Because the best decks can lose to any deck at any time if you draw wrong. And but I've judged a few tournaments. Haven't seen that person since, luckily. But overall, amazing community, at least locally around here. Plus there's online TCG community who help give feedback on decks, selling cards, buying cards, all of it. And honestly, I'm really glad I got into the TCG, because I made a lot of friends that way. And now I'm going to pass this over to Crystal, who is the expert on VGC. Crystal?
Thanks, Chris. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I'm definitely involved with the community. So, of course, I have nothing but positive things to say about the video game community. I've been a part of just casual gaming and also competitive gaming, and nothing but positive experiences for me. I have battled online plenty of times, but the first time I actually have done something more competitive is when I'm trying to remember the calendar year. It's the first full year after, well, maybe not first full year, but it was the first year after X and Y were released. I was a part of the North America competition, and it was my very first one in which I engaged in that sort of environment, and it was pretty positive. I mean, I didn't make it past the first day, but most of us didn't. We could battle up to 9 times, but once we lost 3 battles, we were out. So statistically speaking, like most people wouldn't even continue to the second day, and that was completely fine. I won 3, lost 3, so I was, for a first time competition, like I was pretty happy with myself. There's just one Pokemon I wish I did not bring along with me because I forgot that Mega Kong and Mega Mawile had Sucker Punch on them, and yeah, not my best moment, but either way, I was still pretty happy with that. The different kinds of people I met, I was thrilled with. There was not a single negative moment at that time. There were a lot of different strategies and different types of people and the way that they performed that were so different. Of course, I played competitive locally, but this was the first time I actually saw people with like pen and paper jotting every little thing down, and that was just really cool to see. I wish I would have thought of something like that. That way it's easier to keep track of your opponent's Pokemon items and moves. Oh yeah, and abilities. And between my experience for just playing for fun, competitive, in person, and online, it has all just been really positive. And every time I go into it, I always learn about new strategies and just how to go about things. Like, there was a strategy I recently learned. Oh yeah, it was, I believe that I believe the Pokemon was Linoon. I got to set up Toxic Substitute with it. I believe it was Linoon anyways, and I got to, oh yeah, and Swords Dance, and I didn't, there are a lot of Pokemon out there that are competitive when you do not know they're competitive, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you, Chris?
Yes, it does.
Like, oh yeah, a good example. There was a tournament, I believe it was either North America or Worlds, I want to say Worlds, in which a Pachirisu was on the winning team. That Pachirisu helped them win. It was holding a citrus berry, had Volt Absorb, and it did not have a single strong move. Like, the best it had was Super Fang, which cut your opponent's HP in half, unless it's immune to normal type attacks. But that was just one example of using a Pokemon competitively that most people just roll it out, which I hope to see that more in the video game community, because like that Pachirisu moment was just, I guess, the peak of excitement in the competitive world, in my personal opinion. But transitioning along, we can talk about the online community.
Before
Whether
I did want to bring one thing up about the TCG.
Oh yeah, what's that?
You bringing up about playing online. I didn't mention that, and I should have. But there is a thing called the TCGO, Trading Card Game Online, and I do play competitive there. And I just wanted to give my experience on that. It has been nothing but positive. Every person I have played has been super nice, um, always complimenting, and I mean, even in defeat, they're just really, really genuinely nice. And also with the TCG, along with what Crystal said about VGC, it's just amazing to see the creativity that people put into creating their team, or in the TCG terms, their deck. It's just crazy to see the creativity that people can bring to the table when it comes to either one. And it's just overall just awesome to watch or awesome to be involved in. But that's just all I wanted to bring up. I know it was just a little, but I just wanted to say that since you brought it up. But now, if you're ready to talk about the online community, we should get going.
Oh yeah, so the online community could be anything from social media to discussion boards, blogs, just anything when you go online. So,
Like this.
oh yeah, just like this. Um, so the online community, I think that's where most of the toxic people you would find, just because anyone you can like the online community is so large, you can find anyone and everyone has their opinions and a lot of people like to change their personality when they're online, which totally fine to be someone else that you're not. I mean, I think
And a
that's
lot of
just. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that can be fun for some people, but you were saying.
I was just going to say a lot of people like to act all big and bad behind a keyboard where nobody can see them. And
Oh
it's just
yeah,
really see that.
but let's not give them too much of the spotlight.
Fair enough.
Especially in this community. But yeah, online community, there's a lot of meaningful discussions. Like more recently, when the Generation 8 trailer was released for the video games, and also just to show off the three starters. The online community is very engaging. There are lots of theories. There are a lot of people, bloggers, YouTubers that like watch everything frame by frame and dissect everything just for the whole community to absorb and learn from and set up expectations. Like there's just a lot you can get out of the online community. Like the online community is how I learned about what I talked about last week, the evolutions and how all of them have been special before the Generation 4 split. But do you have any comments or opinions of the online community or specific experiences you want to share?
Not really experiences for me. As far as everything else, I covered it earlier and you just covered the rest of it now. So I really don't have any experiences. What about you?
Well, I briefly talked about like engaging with the online community about theories and what to expect with Generation 8, but I mean, we can talk about specifics. I just don't want to give away our identities to people who do not really know who we are, because obviously I'm using a fake name, Crystal. Um, but again, most of our interaction with the online community has been pretty positive, and I love all the conspiracy theories out there, like how Ash is really in a coma after Pikachu's. I believe the move was Thunderbolt, so I'm not really sure when the Spearow attacked. Have
Hmm.
you heard of that theory?
I have.
Yeah, that's
And
a
people
very.
speculate.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say that's one thing that leads to people to believe why Ash is still 10 because he's still in a coma and he's dreaming.
And that is a beautifully well thought of theory. I mean, I personally don't believe it, but
Right.
I at least admire it. So, if we're done talking about the online community, let's go ahead and talk about the Pokemon Go community.
Sure. As someone who does play, but not very often, mostly because I really don't have time to nowadays. Yeah, it's a nice little time waster at best. I'm not one of these people who has to go every single day, get all these Pokestops, try to mostly what I do now, if I get to go on, is see what's around. If it's something that I want, I'll catch it. If it's something that I don't want, I won't catch it. And if I happen to pass the Pokestop, I'll get it. But that's about it. It's like I said, it's nothing but a time waster at best for me. But that's just me. I know there's a lot of people out there. I have a lot of friends who love the game, like really love it, and that's fine. But for me, it's just a time waster. What about you?
Well, Pokemon Go, for me specifically, I think it was great when it came out. It was a great new concept. I love it when Pokemon introduce games and stories with different concepts, like Mega Evolution was different, Z moves were different. Um, I won't talk about this much, but have you ever played Pokemon Conquest?
I have not, sadly.
Are you familiar with it?
Sort of, yes.
Like, that was a huge, well, I guess define huge, but for me that was just a huge um different route they went with it, and I think that was just one of their more, in my personal opinion, successful methods of playing Pokemon, and Pokemon Go was one of those as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Pokemon Go is their most successful launch in Pokemon history.
I believe so, yes.
Oh yeah, so it was very fun at first. Honestly, I kind of got uh, bored with it after a little while, especially since I don't live in a huge city, and that's one thing that I do criticize about the game. There are tons more Spots when you're in large cities like New York, Cleveland, just anything where you can essentially drive down the street and you've already passed by 10 plus Pokestops. I actually have to get out of my house and walk down several blocks in order to find one Pokestop. But my experience aside, the Pokemon Go community is very interesting. There were a lot of people who have not played Pokemon in a long time or have never played Pokemon at all that just jump on board with the Pokemon Go community. And when it was really popular, there were popular Pokestops that people went to, and you were just out in public, and there were all these strangers on their phone, and you're all essentially there for the same purpose, getting items at the Pokestops, catching Pokemon, and just having fun. And that was just a fun networking opportunity, and the whole um, three different teams concept, I thought that was very nice because there was some friendly rivalry going on, kind of like how people get with sports. Like, of course, people hurl insults and talk about how their team is the best, but no one's actually holding any grudges for the most part.
At least we think.
I'm going to be optimistic and say for the most part.
Just out of curiosity, Crystal, which team did you join, or if you didn't make it that far, which team would you have joined?
Well, they kind of made you join a team immediately, from my memory.
I didn't know if you made it that far, so.
Oh no, I played obsessively at first, but I'm trying to remember the name of the team, so I'm probably being shamed by Pokemon fans right now. But what were the three teams?
You got Instinct, which was Zapdos. You got Valor, which was Moltres, and you got Mystic, which was Articuno.
Yes, I was Team Mystic because Articuno is within my top 5 favorite Pokemon. But which team were you on?
Team Valor, because Moltres is my favorite of the legendary trio.
Mm.
Yes, I love Moltres more than Zapdos and Articuno. I'm in the minority. I do not care.
Well, in that opinion, yeah, but wasn't your team the most popular that people joined? I know Team Instinct was the least popular. Like, of course, it's no offense to Zapdos, but just in the Pokemon Go world.
Not necessarily sure. I know a lot of people are switching to Team Mystic now. Why, I don't know, but but I mean, overall, yeah, the problem that you mentioned about having to be so close to like major cities and stuff, that is a problem. But a bigger problem for me, because I live in the middle of nowhere. Like, I'm not even close to a small town. I have to drive at least 10, 15 minutes to get to the nearest small town. So where I live, literally nothing. No Pokestops, no Pokemon. And I mean, you got all these Pokemon that live in areas like where I live, and yet there's nothing here. So that's like the biggest major problem with it for me, at least.
Oh yeah, and I've had other friends and just online acquaintances say the same thing. Most people I talk to, oddly enough, don't live in those larger cities, but I visited those larger cities and it was a Pokemon Go blessing for me. But do you have anything else about the Pokemon Go community before we move on?
Um, Honestly, I think we've covered a good bit of it. It's cool that now that you can actually battle with friends. I mean, sending gifts and trading was really cool, but now that you actually get to battle, I've never done it personally because that's just not my thing. But seeing a lot of friends that I have that love doing it is just really cool to see.
Oh yeah, agreed, especially for the people who have been introduced to Pokemon through Pokemon Go.
Right,
But
because Pokemon Go's done a lot of good things. But I'm ready to move on whenever you are.
okay, so I think those were the major communities. We have both been in a part of the Pokemon community as a whole for a decade or two now, but I personally have never ran into or interacted with a community that's dedicated towards anime and the manga. So I cannot speak from experience, and I know, Chris, we have talked about this earlier. You haven't really interacted with anyone in those particular communities if they exist. So, for anyone who's listening, if you are a part of a specific Pokemon anime and or manga community, please share that with us below. Talk about your experiences with them and even comparing that to the Pokemon community at large. And then I also want to give a shout out to the cosplay and Fakemon communities. Just cosplay because there's just so much talent that goes into it. Um, can't really say anything much more about that. I'm not really a cosplayer, but definitely a fan of that. And Fakemon, I play a lot of Fakemon games. I can't say I have played them all yet. I'm still working on it as we speak. But the community that's involved with that I've had a lot of positive interactions with. And it's just so fun to talk about Pokemon that don't even exist with other people. But do you have any thoughts or interactions with any of those communities? Or any others that you want to bring up?
Um, for the anime and manga, like you said, don't really know that many people. None really at all. I mean, I have one friend dealing with the anime who I don't know if they still watch it, but they've watched up to, I believe, Sun and Moon. They've pretty much seen or have all the movies. The manga, virtually non-existent to me as far as community-wise goes. I agree with you on the cosplay because just the amount of creativity it takes to make some of the costumes that I've seen is incredible, and I give everybody who does all of that stuff all the props in the world. And as far as the Fakemon community goes, I've played some games, nowhere near as many as you have. But the talent it takes to do those games as well is just incredible. And they do such an amazing job with what they're given, at least.
Oh, most of them, anyways. Of course, this is not really bashing the creator, but there is one of them I played. It was essentially Fire Red, but all the dialogue was twisted into adult-rated content. But other than that, the game was exactly the same as Fire Red. So other than that one example, like all the Fakemon games I've played, regardless if they have been completed or not, just have floored me personally.
And also when it comes to ROM hacks in general, not Pokemon games, but ROM hacks. There are a lot of good ones. There are some not so good, but still pretty cool for the fact that they actually did it. And then there are some that is just WTF. But I think that wraps it up for me, at least on this particular topic.
Okay, so yeah, I think we're done talking about the communities and all together. All I can really say is I'm happy to be a part of the Pokemon community. Glad it's actually been the most positive community I've been a part of, just my personal experience, and I hope it continues to stay that way. And we've lost people, game people over time, and hopefully we just keep gaining more people within our community of Pokemon fans. But I don't really have any other statements. Do you have any other statements, comments before we sign off?
Not really. I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. We lose people, we gain people. It's just an overall great community, great people, most of them at least. A lot of wholehearted discussions, theories. Just overall, the experience is great. And like you said, I just hope it keeps going for a really long time because I know I'm really enjoying it and I have no intentions on leaving.
Oh yeah,
But
it'll be sad once Pokemon's fully over with, which even like that's a terrible thought to have, I know, but like all companies, all things would have to come to an end at some point.
right,
Um,
that's it.
I would
But they're
guess.
not gonna go without a fight.
Oh, sorry.
I was just saying they're not going to go without a fight.
Oh yeah, they'll probably use up all the Zodiacs for the fire starters before going out first. You do know about that theory, though, right?
Yes, I do. I do know about that.
Okay, well, I guess that's all that we can talk about when it comes to the Pokemon community. When it comes to other videos, please comment any ideas, suggestions for future topics. Um, I know we will talk about the trading card game, a video game community specifically in future videos. We'll also probably have like top 10, bottom 10, essentially anything Pokemon related. Our goal is to try to make a video or a podcast discussing this. But I believe that is all for today's podcast. Again, this is Crystal with my co-host pod partner Chris.
Yo,
Thank you for listening to Pedal Dance Podcast, and until next time.
later.